Depression moving our way. Yeah, I wouldn't use that graph. It says Tropical Storm Bertha.
Yeah, mic check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can call it Tropical Depression Maddie. I feel like a tropical depression. Not really, but maybe a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We'll see how this hair goes. Haven't washed it in about 4 days. We're getting there, folks. I see the light. Let me take this off. Shopping centers like Ross Dress. Shopping centers like Ross Dress for Less were nearly bare, and other stores here in the Northwest Shopping Center were similar. There were shoppers who couldn't find some of the items they were looking for. Good afternoon and welcome to your 4 to 5. I'm Maddie Gardner here with Eric Chilton, Taheshah Moise, and Christian Morgan this afternoon, who's in-house today monitoring some tropical weather.
Yeah, you know what? We have seen our fair share of rain, and we've got more of it on the way as we head through this evening. We've seen just some light showers so far today, but as we head through the evening hours, that rain is really going to ramp up. In fact, you can see the low, the center of the low of what used to be Tropical Storm Bertha. Very short-lived this morning, but the center of that low is spinning just to the east of Columbia right now, with some light rain moving up into the Triad and some of those heavier bands starting to move into the southern portions of the Piedmont. If we zoom in on a closer view, you can see really our entire viewing area is covered in light rain right now, but it will pick up in intensity as we go throughout those evening hours. And right now, of course, the heaviest rain, there are some heavy pockets in some of these heavier bands just kind of south of Lexington near Asheboro, and then further south and west that you go of the Triad. So let's take you through in time. And as we go through the evening hours, really we're watching from now until about 11 o'clock tonight for those heaviest bands of rain to move through. And as they do, we're really talking about a significant flash flood threat. And here's your main storm impacts. Of course, if we get any storms to pop up, we'll watch for some damaging winds and also an isolated tornado threat. Can't be totally ruled out, but flash flooding is going to be our biggest concern. Of course, with already saturated ground from last week, with our winds picking up, it won't take a whole lot to topple some small trees. So that, of course, is a concern that we're watching for as well. By the time we're all said and done with this tomorrow morning, at least an inch is possible in most of the Triad areas, even a little more in places where those heavier bands of rain set up. And we do have a pretty significant flash flooding risk that lasts through the morning hours tomorrow, and then things will start to quiet down through the middle portion of your Thursday. So tonight, rain and a few storms are likely. We'll also watch for that flash flooding concern. Temperatures not going to move a whole lot. We'll be in the mid and upper 60s for overnight lows. Tomorrow, we dry out in the morning. We'll watch for a few pop-up storms in the afternoon, and we warm up too, getting close to 80 tomorrow afternoon. It's a pretty soggy, pretty unsettled second half of the week. We'll watch each afternoon, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday for some pop-up storms. Some showers could linger through Sunday morning, but we dry out heading into next week.
Now that shopping centers are open, many of them are struggling to keep their shelves stocked.
Yeah, you've likely seen images like this, especially when you go to the grocery store, empty aisles, empty shelves, and now that is starting to transition to retail stores. WFMY News 2's Denise McMiller went to several Greensboro shops this morning, and she's live with what she found.
Well, besides clothing and shoes, the shelves at Ross Dress for Less were nearly empty, and it was much of the same at other popular retail stores. Shoppers nearly wiped Ross Dress for Less at the Northwest Center in Greensboro out of inventory. Bedding shelves empty. All of their furniture and home decor aisles bare as well. An employee told me a 50% off reopening sale plays a part in why they can't keep their shelves stocked. I went down to TJ Maxx in the same shopping center, and much of the same. Back-to-back bedding aisles with no items in sight. Kitchen supplies were low. Some shelves so bare it's hard to tell what was originally there. An employee at the store says their distribution center is closed, so they're relying on outside distributors to keep their store stocked. But across town at Marshall's on New Garden Road, shoppers were welcomed with stocked shelves. Then I took a final trip to Target on Highwoods Boulevard, where upon walking in, you're provided with a list of items they're out of. Their paper towel and toilet paper aisles were empty. Sections of shelves where cleaning supplies go were also empty. But other than that, Target was well stocked. And staff at both TJ Maxx and Ross told me that they're stocking their shelves as soon as they get inventory, but the weekend crowds come rushing in and they're back to nothing. I also reached out to the corporate offices at both Ross and TJ Maxx to find out when they plan to restock their shelves and have their stores fully stocked. I have yet to hear back.
Hi, Denise. Thank you. Guilford County health officials are offering free tests again this week. You can get a free test on Thursday or Friday, but you do have to have an appointment. That testing is happening at Windsor Recreation Center in Greensboro. You can stop by from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m.
Davidson County health officials are offering testing for anyone experiencing coronavirus symptoms. That's happening this Friday. Registration is now open for free testing. You do have to pre-register before going to the health department. Testing will be from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. and registration will close when capacity is reached.
Well, businesses are reopening to more rules and regulations put in place to keep employees and customers safe. But that's why the Greensboro Chamber of Commerce put together a database of local companies that can supply PPE, masks, gloves, even cleaning supplies. It's all right there on their website. They also have a list of businesses that can supply signage to space people out. Maybe you've seen those stickers on the floor, wait 6 feet apart, or to encourage social distancing. Now, if you take a look at this database, you'll find Century Products LLC. They're one of the businesses listed. They sell cleaning supplies and PPE to companies. Brent Hampton says they had a surge in orders at the start of the pandemic, but business fell off after that. Now, as more places reopen, they're starting to fill more orders, and the Chamber's database is helping them out.
With their help, we've been getting referrals as well. We're helping where we can and trying to refer where we can. The Chamber has been a great help because we've definitely gotten some new calls and hopefully develop new relationships. So as things get back to normal, we'll even have a tighter net in the Guilford area. But
now, Brent Christensen, the president of the Chamber of Commerce, says it was important to them to connect member businesses with local places that could meet their needs and help them reopen safely.
We've gone through this unprecedented time. We've made sure that we were on the cutting edge of everything available to businesses, again, from financial resources to sanitation resources.
So you can find that database as well as this restart guide and more resources on the Chamber's website. They really have everything there for you, from what a business is required to do by law when they reopen to where you can learn more about hiring people and getting federal money.
So owners are filing a lawsuit today. We're talking about gyms and fitness centers. They're pushing to reopen their facilities. So North Carolina's phase 2 originally included fitness centers, but last Friday, the governor did not include them in the plan to reopen right now. Governor Roy Cooper says gyms and bars were both considered high-risk businesses. Several gyms have reopened around the Triad, but the owners there say they are following proper social distancing and CDC guidelines.
Let's get to your 4 to 5 roundup this afternoon. The Justice Department seems to be focusing in their stock trading investigation on North Carolina Senator Richard Burr. Now, the DOJ dropped cases against other senators from California, Oklahoma, and Georgia. Burr is accused of selling anywhere from $600,000 to more than $1 million in stocks before the coronavirus pandemic impacted the economy. Since the investigation, Burr has stepped down as the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee. Burr claims he used public information to make his financial decisions, not insight gained by his position in the Senate. Protesters stormed Minneapolis Tuesday night after a man died from a reportedly brutal arrest. 4 officers were fired after George Floyd died hours after his arrest. In a video that is hard to watch, George Floyd appears to be on the ground being arrested by an officer who has his knee on Floyd's neck. Floyd was under arrest for suspicion of forgery outside of a deli. After he was taken into custody, he was transported to the hospital where he later died. Protesters marched nearly 2 miles from the spot where Floyd was arrested to a Minneapolis precinct. 1 officer was injured in those protests, but there are no reports of protester injuries. Well, the CDC is updating quarantine guidance for anyone who tested positive for coronavirus. Anyone who is sick should stay away from others until they've gone 3 days without a fever or until it's been 10 days since the start of symptoms. Even if you test positive but you don't show symptoms, the CDC says stay away from others for 10 days. If you have been exposed to the virus, you need to stay home for 14 days. The CDC also recommends opening up windows when you're on public transit or in a rideshare to improve air circulation. And a salon in Wilkesboro is temporarily preventing any Tyson plant employees from coming inside. Smart Cuts off US 421 says the temporary ban is just through next month. At last check, more than 2,000 employees at the Tyson plant were tested for coronavirus, and 570 of them were positive. Most were not showing any symptoms. Tyson says they're now screening workers before shifts, requiring masks and installing physical barriers between workstations and break rooms. The owner of the salon, Bob Hartley, says when the ban ends on June 8th, the salon will offer a $3 discount to Tyson employees.
A healthcare worker who prayed with a triad woman as her husband battled coronavirus is speaking out. The tense meeting between Rodney Simpson and Melissa Baker is inspiring many of you. Baker's husband, Pastor Rory Baker, was on a ventilator at High Point Medical Center. Baker's wife would go there to pray and leave handprints on the glass as she wasn't allowed inside. Well, Simpson noticed the handprints and one day saw Baker outside, so he struck up a conversation with her, found out she was praying, and instead of shooing her away, he joined her.
She prayed for these doctors. She prayed for these nurses. She prayed for all the caregivers. And, you know, from what I understand is that she not only made her way to just this one entrance, she did a prayer walk around this hospital twice a day for almost the last 3 weeks.
Pastor Baker has now tested negative for coronavirus 3 times and is out of the hospital. He's still on a ventilator in a rehab center in Greensboro. His family asked to keep him in your prayers. It is encouraging to know, though, right now that Pastor Baker has been released from the hospital, and just really encouraging to see what his wife was doing for all of the healthcare workers there, unknowingly to them.
Right. It is definitely a show of faith. Her faith is very strong, and that is evident. And I'm glad that, you know, we're able to hear about her story and share it with others.
Yeah, the thing about this for me is just that we see that human spirit and a lot of hope. And this type of thing instills hope in all of us that, you know, the power of prayer. You can say what you want to. It's a big thing, and I think it's nice when we see something like this with a good outcome.
Yeah, we continue to wish him the best, and their entire family will remain in our thoughts and prayers. By the way, we are live streaming right now on WFMY News 2's Facebook page and our YouTube channel. We want you to join our conversation. Use our hashtag 4 to 5 so we can see what you're chatting about this afternoon. We'll be right back.
So the phrase "to protect and serve," we've seen that a lot over the years, whether it's in the movies or on the law enforcement vehicles. It's a big deal, but the Guilford County Sheriff's Office is taking this to a new level. And this all started, believe it or not, with evictions that were scheduled to happen during the pandemic. Take a look.
Sheriff, we know that we all live in a new world these days, and you and I had been talking that eviction numbers were going to be pretty high, but you guys are working with people and making that number drop. How is this working?
Well, it's working great. Actually, it's a blessing where we went from 140 potential evictions down to 62. I'm very grateful for many of the landlords that have worked with the tenants, as well as the clerk's office that came back and recalled a few of them. So it's working out very well for us.
And have you found, like I have when I do these stories and I'm searching for, people are willing to help each other, and that extends even into law enforcement as well. I mean, sometimes we have to do things differently to get it done the right way.
One of the things that we focus on here with the Guilford County Sheriff's Office is to make sure that we can always be and bring a positive change in the lives of the residents of Guilford County. I don't think that this is a time, although the governor has lifted the stay at home, this is not the time for us or for the residents or in the state of North Carolina or better yet around the country to become more relaxed. We have to continue to practice the things that we have to do to be safe.
That's true. That's true. Well, best of luck. I know you have a lot of work ahead of you, but looks like things are looking up, and we give you big thumbs up. Thanks for everything you do, Sheriff.
And one of the things in talking with Sheriff Rogers that is interesting is the fact that they're really trying hard to instill a heart into law enforcement so that people understand that. And as he said, one part that didn't make the cut in the final story there was that he said, we're people, right? We live in this community. We're going through the same things that everybody else is. So we try to really instill that in the public, that we're all in this together, and it's not just a corny phrase. They really mean that.
Right. I know rent and making that payment check, that deadline is top of mind for a lot of people out there, especially with the economy the way it is, the unemployment numbers trending the way that they are, Eric. So I think it's important to remember how powerful and how influential a conversation can be, especially with your landlord. We've been saying this from the beginning.
It is.
If you can't make rent, you're worried about it, start that conversation well before the next payment is due, and maybe they can work something out with you.
And that's really what he was saying at one point. He was saying that, hey, we were the middle guys. We just went to the landlords, went to the renters and said, let's figure this out. And by doing that and opening that conversation, you're right, the power of communication, all of a sudden you've got less than half the number of evictions scheduled to happen.
All right, it is time to update your resumes. The Career Center of the Southeast is hosting a virtual job fair tomorrow. So about 100 jobs are up for grabs. Anyone looking for a job can choose the employer that they want to video chat with, and you'll be able to talk with a company representative. Now, that job fair is free. We have all the information you need to know beforehand posted on our website.
And taking a look outside, we are starting to see light rain across the Triad. Some of those heavy bands from what is now just a tropical depression left over from Tropical Storm Bertha will be heading our way. Some of those heavier bands already moving into the southern Piedmont. We'll watch for flash flooding concerns as we head through the evening. All those details in your 7-day forecast. Good night.
All right, so we want to honor all of our seniors this year since their graduations have been affected by the pandemic. So that's why we do this. I love this. We call it Senior Shoutouts. Cool thing here. We're going to show you some of the graduates that we're featuring today. Take a look. Elizabeth Baker is a senior at Southeast Guilford High School, planning to go to UNCG in the fall. She says she wants to major in interior architecture. Good for you. Hillary Montgomery is a senior at Southern Alamance High School, going to UNC Charlotte in the fall. Wants to transfer to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University to become a commercial pilot. And Amia Weeks is a senior at Dudley Senior High. She is president of the Dudley Ladies, an honor roll student, and is going to North Carolina A&T in the fall. If you want to share your senior shout outs with us, you can find our submission form. It's right on our website. Make sure you submit the photos of your senior, not professional photos, just candidates, and their name and their school and a little bit of something about them. Also include a personal message with your shout out.
And taking a look outside, we do have some light rain across the Triad moving in from tropical, well, it used to be Tropical Storm Bertha, now a tropical depression. As we go through the evening hours, that rain will pick up in intensity, and we'll also have to watch for some flash flooding concerns, which could topple a few trees as we head through the evening hours. All those details, and we'll break down how much rain we're talking about, plus your 7-day forecast coming up next on the 4 to 5.
And this just in, the historic space launch set to happen in just a few moments at 4:33 this afternoon is now postponed due to weather. The two astronauts who were preparing to take off from the Kennedy Space Center will now have a chance to complete that mission on Saturday. We'll update you coming up in just a few moments.
Tropical depression Bertha made landfall on the coast, off the coast of South Carolina earlier this morning. So I want to take you a live look at Myrtle Beach right now. The storm has winds moving up to 50 miles an hour with heavy rainfall. That storm is now the second storm
Clearly. afternoon and welcome back to your 4 to 5. I'm Maddie Gardner here with Eric Chilton, Taheshah Moist, and Christian Morgan is here this afternoon to give us a forecast. Of course, we are still connected with you on Facebook right now. We are live streaming on WFMY News 2's page and our YouTube channel. Join our conversation by using our hashtag 4 to 5. So, Tropical Depression Bertha.
Yeah, it was a tropical storm earlier, and last night it didn't have that great a chance of turning into one. I went to bed and then woke up and we did have Tropical Storm Bertha that did make landfall just off the coast of South Carolina today near Charleston. It is now weakened into a tropical depression, but it still has a very defined orientation. You can see the center of low pressure here just off to the northeast of Columbia. That light rain already moving up into our portion of the viewing area, but we also have some of those heavy bands of rain moving into the southern portions of the Piedmont. There's one setting up from Charleston up into Davidson County, and we'll see more of those heavy bands of rain set up as we go through the evening hours. The heaviest rain right now, of course, in Davidson County near Lexington, also a couple heavy bands near Winston-Salem, and then back down to the southwest as well. But that rain, like I said, will pick up in intensity as we go throughout the evening hours, and we'll see a couple of those heavy bands set up, and wherever they do is where we have that real concern for flash flooding. By 10, 11 o'clock, what used to be Tropical Storm Bertha, now a tropical depression, will move away from us, but we are left with plenty of moisture and some showers that could linger into your Thursday morning as well. So our main time frame that we're watching is from now until about 11 o'clock tonight. Of course, our biggest concern is that flash flooding risk that we do have. But if we get any storms to pop off, we will have to worry about a damaging wind concern. Also, an isolated tornado or two are possible. Not a great threat of that happening, but something that we'll watch for. With all of this rain and already saturated ground from last week, we do have a pretty significant flash flood risk tonight. And by the time we're done with this system, I think it's very possible we could pick up around an inch or more in some places, especially where those heavy bands of rain do set up. So there's rain and possible storms tonight. We'll of course watch for flash flooding, mid-60s for overnight lows. Tomorrow, it's mostly cloudy in the morning. A few showers here or there, but by the afternoon we'll watch for a few pop-up storms, but it doesn't look like there would be a great severe threat tomorrow. We'll watch each afternoon, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday for some of those pop-up storms. We finally dry out and get the sunshine back by the end of the weekend and heading into next week.
Let's get to your 4 to 5 roundup this Wednesday afternoon. President Donald Trump is threatening to strongly regulate or even shut down social media platforms. The move comes after Twitter put a fact-check warning on 2 tweets from the president. In the tweets, the president claimed that mail-in ballots are fraudulent and claim election officials say is false. The site put links under his tweets directing users to a page with more information about mail-in ballots. It is the first time the social media company has flagged the president's tweets as part of their community guidelines. Well, the historic space launch that was supposed to happen right now is now postponed until Saturday because of bad weather. Of course, we'll keep you updated as we learn more, but the launch with SpaceX and NASA was supposed to take off at 4:33 this afternoon, the first takeoff from U.S. soil in nearly a decade. SpaceX is now on the cusp of becoming the first private company to put astronauts in orbit, something achieved by just 3 countries, Russia, the United States, and China. And it is hard to forget this video of people partying at the Lake of the Ozarks over the weekend. The St. Louis County Health Department has now issued a travel advisory asking anyone who didn't keep a safe distance to self-quarantine for 14 days or until a test for COVID-19 comes back negative. One man who was there says his employer is now forcing him to self-isolate for 2 weeks without pay. Legal experts say the man may be protected under the Family First Coronavirus Response Act, and if he can get a doctor to advise him that he should stay home, his employer would most likely have to pay him. The Greensboro Public Library will start to return to in-person services starting June 1st with the opening of a book return at all locations. And then starting on June 10th, libraries will offer curbside pickup. From June 29th on, the library will implement a grab-and-go service that allows customers to come in and grab what they need, then check out and leave the building. Sitting at the library or using the computers will not be allowed. By the way, penalties for late returns have been waived for the period of March 12th through June 29th. There is no denying it. Local businesses have taken a serious hit during this pandemic. Some are just starting to reopen under phase 2 of easing restrictions. Others are still waiting on the all clear to welcome customers back in. The Greensboro Chamber of Commerce says for the last 10 weeks, they've been trying to help member businesses with everything from how to get federal money and the Paycheck Protection Program to helping them find cleaning supplies and PPE to safely reopen. President Brent Christensen says things might look different for businesses now, but he's hopeful for the recovery.
I think that there will be a back to normal. I think it's anybody's guess as to how long that takes. We're all going to have to do our part to make sure that everybody's comfortable in order for that recovery to go as quickly as possible.
So businesses are making some big changes to keep employees and customers safe when they do reopen. And I asked you on my Facebook page, what changes have you noticed? Sandra Smith Collins said she really appreciates the stores sanitizing the shopping carts. Clint Witten said, well, some have put masks on employees and plastic covers over card machines. His one complaint about the machines, though, is they're not wiping them down, he says, and the plastic that covers it. So why not just leave it uncovered, he says. Greg Klein added cleaning, distancing customers, and wearing face masks are some of the things he's seen when he's been out and about shopping. Eric, I've really only been to the Starbucks drive-thru, but I do notice that all of the employees there are wearing face masks.
Yeah, and today, I got, which we'll talk about this a little later, but I got my hair cut finally, thank goodness. And I want to tell you that the place that I go to, unbelievable with this. They make people stay at a big distance. All of them were wearing masks. You had to wear a mask. They had the clear plastic in front of the person at checkout. I mean, they were doing everything possible with sanitizer, hand sanitizer, everywhere. So a lot of businesses are taking this seriously, and they should.
Yeah, and Brent Christensen with the Chamber of Commerce, Eric, he was saying, it's all about making employees and customers feel safe when those businesses are allowed to reopen. And that's how we'll be able to have an effective restart and jumpstart to the economy, is by making sure everyone feels safe going out and about when they're shopping, and then hopefully spending money and re-energizing the businesses.
That's exactly right. And people aren't going to go if they don't feel safe.
All right, Taheshah, what's going on?
A Kernersville woman is set to make the journey of a lifetime tomorrow, meeting her birth family after more than 50 years. This really is an incredible story. So Mary Moore took a DNA test, and in less than 2 months, she was video chatting with her birth mom for the first time on Mother's Day. Now Moore is set to meet her mom in person, along with the rest of her birth family, when she flies to upstate New York.
Even this crazy virus could not even stop me. I was going to drive. I mean, it's like, you're not going to stop me from getting in. But luckily they relaxed things enough where I can get in.
Moore will be taking safety precautions like wearing a mask during her trip. You'll hear more about the motivation behind that trip coming up on WFMY News 2 at 6. And, we hear a lot of incredible things, when people take these DNA tests, but to find your birth mom and then be able to talk with her on Mother's Day, I know that's going to be an unforgettable day, or that was an unforgettable day for both of them.
Such a special story, and I'm glad to see that they're able to connect and make this work even during an unprecedented time where travel is weird and uneasy right now. I'm glad that they'll be able to meet each other face to face.
Pandemic is not stopping them.
Well, a new Reuters poll found 2 in 5 American adults are going to get their flu vaccine this year. Now, that's a 15% increase in the average number of people who have gotten the vaccine since 2010. 60% of the people they surveyed in that poll said they were planning to get the vaccine. 40% of poll takers also said they were vaccinated every year for the last 5 years. 30% of people said they had not been vaccinated in the last 5 years.
An Associated Press NORC poll shows that only half of Americans say that they would get a coronavirus vaccine. 31% of people said they weren't sure if they'd get a vaccine, while around 20% of people said they would refuse to get a vaccine. Of those saying they wouldn't get the vaccine, 70% say it's because they worry a vaccine they worry a vaccine that's ready won't go through proper testing. So, I wanted to do my own poll today on my Facebook page. So I asked people, if this vaccine comes out, are you going to get that vaccine? Majority of people saying no. Probably 90% of people commenting that they wouldn't. So let's get into some of the comments on potentially why they're saying that they don't want to do it. Janet writes here, it depends on how quickly they bring it out. Jolie writes, I'll give it some time. Anna writes, I will not. Vaccines need longer to be fully tested. We need to see what the long-term side effects are. And Pat Delanoy, one of the only people kind of on the line here, she writes, probably. So Maddie, most people saying no, they're saying, we really want to see some data before we decide to get this vaccine or not, and I'm kind of on that too. I'm a data girl, so I would like to see what those trials have produced first before choosing yes or no, just to make an informed decision.
I am really rooting for the researchers right now who are likely working at all hours of the day and night to come up with a vaccine, because experts are saying a vaccine is the only way to build that herd immunity and hopefully not have to go into these stay-at-home orders and lockdowns every year if this virus does become an annual thing that comes around similar to the seasonal flu. So we are right behind those researchers, hoping that they can find a vaccine, quickly get it tested and get it approved by the FDA so we can all start to get rid of this nasty virus. Nobody wants to deal with this anymore. Well, let's switch gears here and talk about quarantine hair. It's real. It is a thing. But for Eric Chilton, it is now over. He loved getting a new haircut so much that he just had to share it with us all. Take a look.
It is over, my friends. The journey has ended, and it ended like this. Thank you. Thank you so much. Haircut finally happened. You know how upset this has made me, that my hair was just a giant mass of hair product, like a big helmet. It was like Lego hair. I could just take it off like a little Lego man and set it on the counter. Horrible. Yeah. So I finally got the haircut. We went from this, you remember these pictures, horrific, to this earlier today, which resulted in this. The haircut has happened. I went 10 weeks without a haircut, which usually I have to get my haircut about every 3 weeks. It grows really fast, it's really thick, and so 10 weeks. It's over. It's over. Oh, I'm just kidding, but it really did bother me. Whew, I'm back. That's all I had to say. This segment was nothing more than me just saying, I finally got a haircut. That's how bad it is for me that I actually did a segment on a haircut. So sue me. Back to you.
Sad. The worst. I apologize to everybody that had to watch.
I have too much stuff in my
Maddie.
hands, or I would give you a round of applause or an Oscar for that performance, Eric. Goodness, that drama background really shone through there.
It's kind of what it was. It was drama. It was all drama. But the fact that I have the guts to show those horrendous photos for a second time, I should win something for that.
The middle part is my favorite.
Horrible. Okay.
On a serious note, I do want to know.
Wait, the middle one?
Yeah, the middle one where it's right down. That's a good look for you, bud. I do have a question. Seriously, you talked a little bit about the safety precautions that your barber was taking today. What about when they cut around your ears with the mask?
Yes, so I actually asked about that, and you have to, or at least what they did at my place, I don't know how others do it, but you take that off and then you hold the mask and they cut, and then you put it back up and do the other side. So we had to do that twice, even when they were washing your hair too. So it was pretty intense there. I will tell you, I asked everybody on Facebook about this. I was like, how long have you gone? And people were cracking me up with their comments. Let's take a look at some of them here. Candy Ling Burt says, I've gone 5 months. Wow. Chaz Carter said, I got mine done last Friday at 5:20, and he said, big tip also, because what I was saying in my post that I I tip my guy a lot this time because it's been so long. Then how about this? My sister, Kathy, chimes in and said, hey, you're not crying and I don't see a sucker in your hand. Memories of your first haircut. Thanks so much, sis. Jim Allred said, I love this. I used to have hair. Next. Candace Lee Phillips says, this sheep is getting sheared tomorrow. Yay, free at last. So there you go. People take this seriously.
It's funny because Elizabeth, who is a loyal viewer there on our Facebook page as we live stream every day, she asked me, she was like, did you get a haircut or a trim? It looks really good today. And I say, thank you, Elizabeth. Absolutely have not had anything done to my hair since February. There's a lot of product. You can see it just all moves in one piece here. That's where we're at with the quarantine hair over here, Eric. So congratulations. I'm glad you got yours cut. It looks
Thank you so much.
All right, your comic relief for the day. Now we have to check in on the weather because that's the big story today, Christian.
Yeah, it is. You know, I got my hair cut yesterday and I was excited. Probably not quite as excited as Eric Chilton was. All right, let's talk about the weather. We do have a lot of rain heading our way. This is the remnants of what was Tropical Storm Bertha earlier today. It's now just a tropical depression. But you can see the center of circulation is actually just down to the east of Columbia. And you can see already some of that light rain moving up into the Triad. So most of the area is covered in some light rain showers right now. And in fact, some of those heavier bands from Bertha starting to move into the southern portions of the Piedmont. You can see the heaviest rain right now. We have some of those heavy bands setting up near Lexington, also down to the southwest near Charlotte and back to Hickory. But as we go through the evening hours, we'll see some of those heavier bands set up for us here in the Triad. Now, wherever those bands are going to set up, that's really hard to pinpoint. We'll have to watch for that because wherever they do, that's where we could have some real flash flooding concerns, of course, with the ground already being so saturated from last week. Really watching this time frame from now until about 11 o'clock tonight, and then through the early morning hours, what's left of Tropical Storm Bertha will start to move away from here. And for the most part, I think Thursday is a dry day, although a gray day. So our concerns and our threats that we're watching, of course, a big flash flood concern. That's our biggest concern. But if we do get some storms to pop up, we'll have to watch for some damaging winds. Also the possibility of an isolated tornado or two, although that threat is low. By the time we're said and done with what's left of Tropical Storm Bertha, I think we'll pick up around an inch or more in some spots of the Triad, of course, depending on where those heavy bands of rain set up. Now, as it moves away from us off to the north through Virginia, there's still going to be a lot of moisture left behind it. So we'll have to watch for the next few afternoons for the possibility of some pop-up storms to form. Then, as we head to the weekend, there's going to be a cold front heading our way that will cross us on Saturday, and we finally dry out by the time we end the weekend and head into next week. Another thing you'll notice tonight, as the center of the low pressure gets closer to us, the winds will pick up. We could see gusts 20 to 30 miles per hour, and if we get storms, they could be 40 to 50 miles per hour possible. So tonight, rain and storms possible, of course, watching for that flooding concern. 66 for the overnight low. It's mostly cloudy tomorrow morning. Mainly dry, I think, but by the afternoon, of course, watching for any of those pop-up storms, but they don't look like they'd be that strong or severe at the moment. Of course, we'll keep an eye on that. So the next few afternoons are quite unsettled with the storm chance Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but then things finally quiet down, just maybe a couple leftover showers on Sunday morning, but the sunshine comes back, we dry out, and temperatures quite comfortable in the mid-70s heading into next week.
Hi, ice cold milk and an Oreo cookie. They forever go together.
I didn't recognize the bank that was the return address. The card itself has nothing on it about U.S. Treasury. At first glance, you would throw it away.
Why, yes, you would throw it away, but then you'd be really mad. You know why?
Because it's really your stimulus payment. But Tania, I gotta be honest, it doesn't look like it.
No, it doesn't, which is why some folks are simply throwing out the stimulus debit card that's coming through the mail tonight at 6 o'clock. We're going to take a look at the markings on the envelope so that you'll know for sure what's going on. Right now, though, I want you to know how to activate it and keep it safe.
Once you get that card in the mail, you will need to register it. You will need to be the one to proactively register that card by calling the phone number on the back or by registering it online. That is what the process is. So if anyone calls you and asks you for that information, that is a scam.
Well, tonight we have more answers to your questions. We have two attorneys ready to answer your questions. Text 336-379-5775. The main topics we're talking about: landlords and evictions and workplace issues. Are they doing enough to keep you safe? Get your questions answered from 5:30 to 5:45 tonight.
And weather-wise, well, the rain is here. Light rain falling across most of the Triad right now. The center of what was Tropical Storm Bertha, now just to the northeast of Columbia, and light rain covering the Triad. Some of those heavier bands of rain are starting to move into the southern portions of the Piedmont. We got some heavy rain from near Charlotte up through Davidson County to near Lexington. And as we go through the evening hours, those heavy bands of rain will continue to set up. Exactly where they set up, though, is really hard to pinpoint. So we'll just have to watch for that. Really, the main time frame that we're watching is from now until about 11 o'clock tonight, as what's left of what was Tropical Storm Bertha does move through with those heavy bands of rain. Things do start to quiet down, though, as we head through the early morning hours of Thursday. I actually think Thursday is mostly dry in the daytime hours, and then we'll just watch for a few pop-up storms in the evening hours. Of course, our biggest concern still is flash flooding tonight, especially with all of the rain that we had last week. We get some strong wind gusts and some already saturated ground. It'll be quite easy for some small trees to topple over. If we do get any storms to pop up, we'll have to watch for some damaging winds and also an isolated tornado threat, although that threat is very low. As this low pressure system tracks to the north, it'll move into Virginia heading into tomorrow, but it leaves behind still ample moisture, and with daytime heating over the next couple days, we'll have a good chance Thursday, Friday, and Saturday to get some pop-up storms in the afternoon. Then a cold front's going to come through. It's going to take it all out of here. We get the sunshine and we get dry weather returning and a little bit cooler weather returning for next week. By the time we're all said and done tomorrow morning, I think as the system comes through, most places in the Triad could pick up around an inch of rain, a little less, maybe even a little more, depending on where some of those heavy bands of rain tend to set up. Of course, we'll watch for that. So rain and storms likely tonight. Of course, keeping an eye on that flash flooding concern. 66 for the overnight low. Tomorrow, a little bit warmer. We'll get up close to 80 and watch the afternoon for those pop-up storms. So the second half of this week, it's pretty unsettled, but things do get better. The light at the end of the tunnel arrives on Sunday. A couple showers left over Sunday morning, but we're dry by the afternoon heading into next weekend. Here 4 to 5. We'll be right back.
Hello, ice cold milk and an Oreo cookie, they forever go together.
Hey, mic check 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10.
Jeffrey 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Hello, hello, hello. 1 2